Yo, how's it going, guys? Back in the workshop today, and I've got this pretty interesting looking retro E-Stay mountain bike. It's a Milazo Rock Comp 2. Most of you probably haven't heard of the brand Milazo before, but it was a company that was based here in New Zealand. So unfortunately no longer around, but they made some pretty sweet, pretty interesting bikes over the years. I believe this model is from the early 90s. Unfortunately, a previous owner has actually removed all the original stickers, but it does still have the head tube badge, which is quite nice, and all the paint is still original, and it's in pretty nice condition. I believe the frame and fork are Tange or Tange chromo tubing. And moving on to the most interesting feature on this bike, which is these Elevated Chainstays, better known as E-Stays. I've heard these were actually designed to allow more room around the bottom bracket for back then when they had bigger range triple chain sets back in the day. But yeah, it definitely gives it a unique look. I'm not quite sure what I think of it yet, but the more I look at it, the more interesting it gets. So my plan with the bike is to actually convert it into a 1x9 setup. So I'll be replacing most of the parts. The cranks do still look good, so plan on reusing those. I'm going to replace the wheel set so I can accommodate a 9-speed cassette. The seat post looks sweet. It actually came with this nice Netto quill stem adapter, which is awesome because it's actually got this 1 1/4 inch head tube, which is larger than the more common 1 inch or 1 1/8 inch size. So this will be really handy to use. The frame looks in good condition. There's no bad signs of rust or damage or anything, but the frame does still have this kind of nasty sticker residue, so I have to have a go at removing that. Moving on to the parts that I'm going to use. So I've got this 9-speed SRAM cassette, nice 11 to 34 range. Going for a new chain, and I've gone for this race face narrow wide 34 tooth chainring, which is 104 BCD, which will fit the cranks nicely. I picked up this 9-speed XT derailleur, which should work quite nicely with this 9-speed Dior LX shifter. Gone for some Shimano Dior servo wave levers. These are the ones that have the adjustable pull ratio, which is quite cool. 90mm Kona stem. Gone for these grey Vans Colt grips, and of course my favourite seat, the titanium flight. I've got these fun kingpin bars. I've gone for some new Shimano V-brakes and some new Maxxis Holy Roller tyres. These are 26 by 2.4, so hopefully they squeeze in. And the wheels I'm going to be using are these Dior LX hubs, which are laced to some nice double wall DH19 Alex rims. So yeah, really keen to see how this build turns out. So let's start off by stripping the bike down. So this is the quill stem adapter, and what's quite interesting about it is the internal size of the fork is actually the same size as a 1 1/8 inch steerer, so the adapter is effectively just a 28.6mm tube, which makes it look quite slick compared to most other adapters that usually have a larger taper, because you're going from like a 1 inch to a 1 1/8. So my biggest headset spanner is 36mm, and as you can see here, it's just not big enough because it's a 1 1/4 headset. So I'm gonna have to use this big guy here. I wouldn't usually recommend it because it's got a pretty gnarly grip on it, and because it's a black headset, it's easily scratched or marked. So just to stop that, I usually just chuck a little rag over the top, and that usually protects it and does the job. So now that the frame's all stripped down, I'm going to start off by giving the frame a good clean with muck off, which is usually really good on the grease and grime. So these marks here are a little bit more stubborn. They look like a bit of a paint smudge, so they can be a little bit harder to remove. So I generally use this Autosol metal polish and just rub it on lightly until the marks have gone. You don't want to go too hard, as this might start to take away some of the clear coat, and as you can see here, it's cleaned up pretty nicely. So this is the sticker residue I mentioned earlier. It's quite nasty, but I've heard that brake cleaner is a good way to remove it. So I'm going to give that a go here and find out. And after about 10 minutes of spraying and scrubbing, the sticky residue has pretty much all come off, and the paint actually has a really nice shine to it, so pretty stoked. So the fork's also cleaned up quite nicely, and here's a little chromo stamp, which is always a good sign when you're not 100% certain what the frame's actually built with. And yeah, so everything's pretty much cleaned up now, ready for some fresh grease, and yeah, let's start the build. So it's one of those nervous moments when you're fitting wider tyres. It's that question whether they're going to fit or not. But yeah, luckily these 2.4s fit nicely with a nice bit of clearance either side. So yeah, super stoked with that. And this is also the stage when the build starts to take shape, once you've got the fork and the wheels in. And yeah, I just get really excited. But let's carry on with it. So this is the crankset that came on the bike. It's just a pretty standard Shimano square taper 104 BCD crank, but it does look like the previous owner has actually already converted it to a single chainring. But I want to use a narrow wide one, so I'm going to swap that over, but I can reuse the single chainring bolts. So the cable routing is quite interesting on this frame, as the chainstays are raised, so the cable actually has to follow over the crankset. There's these two little guides for the cable to follow through, and these would usually have little plastic kind of sleeves or casings that run through them, so that the cable doesn't rub on the metal. But unfortunately I don't have any of these, and this frame didn't have any already in there. So I'm just going to have to run it through like this, just use some lube, which will hopefully lower the friction, and yeah, hopefully it works okay. That pretty much wraps it all up, guys. It's been a little while since I've done a geared build, and I'm pretty pleased with how this one's turned out. The elevated chainstays have definitely grown on me, and I really like how the geometry of this bike looks. Definitely looks a whole lot better with some fresh parts. The paint came out really clean, and the new parts have definitely given this old beast some new life. Can't wait to test this thing out and see what these E-stays feel like. Really hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know if you want to see some more retro mountain bike builds in the future, and also your thoughts on these E-stays. It's been a really fun build. Catch you guys all next time. Peace.